Hello everyone and welcome back to Hearthstone Global Games. We have series number 3 coming up for you. I'm Raven. Joining me is Lorinda, of course, as we bring you this exciting match. It's going to be Germany versus Croatia. And a lot to play for here as both these teams 0-2 in groups.
Right, and I think one of the questions that Hearthstone Global Games threw out in the first few weeks is, are Germany still up to it?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out. It's the way to do it, right? You know, there's a full round robin throughout the group anyway, so there's plenty of games being played to try and prove that. It's a team effort as well, so full collaboration between all 4 players on every single team. And yeah, Germany just not really making it at the moment, and it's a real problem because everyone saw Germany as potentially one of the best European countries to really, represent themselves in the Hearthstone Global Games.
Yeah, and look at that team. Life Coach, Camlan, JJ, 3 massive names. But the one who's getting all the HCT points is Viper.
Yeah, he's actually definitely got most. I know JJ and Life Coach just took some time off the ladder grind, so to speak, in terms of just getting all those HCT points. But yeah, Viper, Camlan being on it as well. He's got his stream also. So yeah, just a star-studded squad of German players. But what about Croatia? Have they got what it takes? Because they're also 0-2 down.
They have got what it takes. Insane was the only Croatian player to get to HCT last summer. So we know what you did last summer, Insane. But the other 3 players are up and comers. They play local tourneys, they've won local lands and so on. So they play tournament, which is important, even if they're small level tournaments.
Yeah, tournament experience.
We've got some players in the event that are just like YouTubers, or they only play ladder. Playing tournaments is important in this sort of environment, especially with your team. But for me, it's all about whether Viper, he's got 27 points. He's another one you can see coming up soon. Almost whether he can carry the German team in some ways, which I never thought I'd be saying 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it is a strange one, isn't it? You look at the likes of Life Coach, JJ, Camlan, 3 extremely experienced tournament players, Hearthstone players just in general, been playing for years, but it's just seemingly not working. They took losses to Ukraine, but so has everyone else at this point. Ukraine are just dominating that group, and then took a loss to Philippines as well. So that's where their 0-2 comes from. And what's very important is this specific matchup. Both teams are 0-2. Whoever takes this win is going to still have a chance. Whoever loses this, it's going to look very grim, almost impossible, because the game scores are so low because they're both already 0-2 down.
Something about Life Coach and JJ in particular, though, is they are both fighters. And sometimes when you corner these sort of guys and say, hey, you're 0-2, have you lost it? That's when these guys really go, hey, you're talking about us like that? That's when they sometimes fight back and say, no, actually, we've still got this.
That's definitely, they're no pushovers at all, and we can see all the players and how they line up here. Is a team best of 5, each player bringing 2 classes. They can choose one to face off against the opponent opposite them, and then try and help get their team to that 3 points to take the win. Potentially an ace match if it goes to 2-2, one of the players gets to play again, and pick one of the decks they haven't played yet.
Right, and we see there at the very, very top there for Croatia, it's going to be Warlock or Warrior, so no Warlock for them then.
Really? That's all we've seen today, I feel. Warlock performing reasonably well. And Life Coach is going to be playing the Druid. Had the option of Druid or Warrior. Was Traveler Boy has actually gone for the Warrior instead of the Warlock. So the Warrior pick over the Warlock, I feel like we've reversed back into just general Hearthstone now.
Reality.
Yeah, nothing going too crazy anymore with everyone playing Warlock today for some reason. And Life Coach going for the Druid. Now, if this is always what I think is a little bit risky, is if you pick the Warrior into a player who has Druid, is that just a nod to the Warrior being Pirates? Because you just don't want to play that control matchup, right?
Yeah, you just do not. If it's Druid is Jade and Warrior is Control, the Warrior just doesn't win. Like, it can sometimes survive and get the hero power and start rag-shotting, and it can win. When I say it can't win in Hearthstone terms, but it's one of the worst matchups there is, and so I think it's Pirates.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is it's not that it can't win, but the onus is pretty much on the Druid to have bad hands, not make enough work fast enough, or ramp up, or get the Jade train rolling for you to actually get the win with the Warrior. See some interesting bits of information as you simply don't have enough facts. Yeah,
and that pretty much sums up Life Coach. 6 major tournament victories, 10 top 10 finishes in big events. This is a guy that I was trying to write off 5 minutes ago. I don't think you write those sort of people off easily at all.
Definitely not, but Life Coach's attentions has been split as well. He's not been, like I said, he's took some time off the ladder grind aspect of Hearthstone, but not like, the qualifications, tournament play of Hearthstone itself. So, interesting to see how much that's affected him and see if, time spent doing other things is just going to affect the overall quality of his play in this team format.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, you don't have 100-hour-a-week boot camps with your friends if you're suddenly just going to go, you know what, never again. That just doesn't die. That fire inside you just does not die.
Especially when you've friend Super JJ, who is also on the team and a very, very strong Hearthstone player for complexity as well. But he's going to be representing Germany potentially later on. But we are kicking off with the Warrior and the Druid, and I've just got to think it's Power Warrior for Croatia. I would never want to try and pick Taunt Warrior into not so much any Druid, but the potential of Jade Druid.
Yeah, Druid really is the hardest class to discuss in this event. I think we found it time and time again where it is just, which Druid is it? And yeah, the two that we would expect, it is the Pirates, it is the Jade, and so both teams will be kind of happy with this. This is a close match, this one now.
Yeah, it is. It's not like Pirate Warrior just completely obliterates Jade Druid all of the time. You know, it's definitely not as simple as that. Jade Druid actually can have some reasonable outs now, especially with scales in the deck. Yeah. You can actually, one, use it for positive trades with your smaller Jades early on, or you can gain the armor boost that keeps you alive in the late game.
Yeah, and a point that Sottle made a couple of weeks ago or last week, or sometime, I don't know.
A point that Sottle has made before
on this show sometimes is even just playing a scales on an auctioneer is sometimes enough to buy you the time, because the Pirates can't let that happen.
They have to, because you can't stop it happening, but they do have to kill the auctioneer.
So they have to kill the auctioneer, so you gain 5 armor, I hate you so much, and you get 5 armor and 5 health from the auctioneer that has to be dealt with, unless you've got lethal, because otherwise the auctioneers are going to draw into feral rages and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it heals you for 10, even if you're in trouble on that turn 6, turn 7, you can still get out of it just with that play. But this Pirate hand looks good, and this Druid hand, it does have Innovate.
It looks reasonable as well. There's Innovate, Jade Blossom, there's a Feral Rage for, I feel early on you Feral Rage for the emergency Frothing Berserker kill.
Right.
Because although it feels bad to not gain 8 armor, it feels worse to leave a Frothing Berserker on the board that you cannot deal with.
Right.
So a lot of the time you do want to snipe the Frothing with that. And then the Jade Behemoth is one of the bigger speed bumps that you can give to the Pirate Warrior to say, well, this is just an awkward shape, 6 health, it's kind of hard to deal with. The 3 attack on the Behemoth actually deals with most Pirate minions anyway, so it's a really good shape there, and if there's any Jades earlier on that help with that, then the Jade it creates is going to start pushing.
Life Coach was one of the best Druid players in the old 14 meta.
Yeah, that old
back in the day. Life Coach was one of the few people who could actually eke out a really good win percentage in the mirror back in that meta.
Yeah, and we see no surprise at all. When you put Life Coach in a match of Hearthstone, he's probably going to use the rope a little bit. So when you had 3 other people talking to him about plays as well, that rope's getting burnt a lot. I feel bad for the rope at this point.
I feel bad for the 3 people.
That's true.
I wonder how much he actually hears of what the other people are saying in his team, because he's so analytical. He probably just throws stuff out there and tells them to tell him to change lines when he's going down a bad path.
Yeah, Life Coach has done some long and hefty streaming sessions,
right.
And a lot of that is just based off sitting there, staring at a hand, saying, okay, this does this, then this will mean this, then this will mean this, you know, like 5-6 turns down the line.
It's fantastic to watch.
And then he'll screenshot the turn, go back to it after the game, regardless of the choice he made, and work out whether a different choice would have ended up being better.
Right, and
the heavy analysis
for
is
10
incredible.
minutes. Yeah. And he can find analysis where a lot of people can't even find there's a thing to talk about, and I used to love watching those and still do when he does it.
Whereas Boy and Team Croatia just getting off to that not crazy start, but a reasonable, you know, Nazos first mate is just okay, good start.
Right.
It's not absolutely nuts. There's nothing too crazy going to come out.
Next turn might be.
Yeah, not turn 1, but turn 2 when you can start adding in Fiery War Axe. There's the South Sea Captain is absolutely insane. Even just the Raider getting down for the extra damage. You really got the options here for the Pirate Warrior to start going off and asking Life Coach and Team Germany, like, you need to answer this board because it's going wide very quickly. The zoo approach that Pirate Warriors kind of gain now is even better versus Druid.
Right. And this is interesting with Germany, that it's looking good for them to ramp and then ramp again. But you don't want to play the Jade Behemoth too early, oddly enough, in this matchup. You kind of want to hold on to it until the Arcanite Reaper turns. Even if you get the ramp going early, you'd much rather have an Ire first, develop some sort of board, and then go, here's some taunt. Your 5 attack weapon into my 6 health minion. That's such a problem for Warrior. So he may just be necessity to play it. But
I was going to say, in the world you live in, Lorinda, when you can happily drop an Ire on turn 6 against Pirate Warrior, I want to play some of those games because I'm always forced to play a Behemoth and 6 because you're just under so much pressure.
I'll swap it for your mage games any day of the week. Okay, the captain is played out here. Nod to the fact that actually when this War Axe is played shortly, the Corsair and the Bloodsail Raider are both going to get tremendous value.
Oh, that Wrath is huge. I was just about to say that this is awkward because a captain is one of the strongest cards in the deck, actually. When the captain sticks, games normally end very quickly in the favor of the Pirate Warrior. The Wrath here could have or can be used to kill the captain because if you had to Feral Rage into the 3/3, it means that you can't Feral Rage the potential Frothing next turn, and then you're just in trouble.
And this play is a nod to the fact that you don't need to play Behemoth too early. If you can get away with it, then next turn you just develop a little bit more, and then, okay, then if you've had 2 more draws and haven't drawn another Jade, yeah, sure, you have to play it, I confess.
Feral Rage is looking nice and flexible now, though. Now that you've got past the emergency, uh-oh, I'm going to die on turn 4 turn, then this, the game's going just slow enough to mean Feral Rage could be used for Armageddon.
I wonder if that was a mistake there. I'm not actually sure. There was a glance from the teammate there when you can play N'Zoth's first mate first and just get it on the board here. Because with this upgrade, you're almost never going to get to the point where that N'Zoth first mate can now be played.
Yeah, but if you played the N'Zoth's first mate, it means that you weren't equipping. You couldn't play. Well,
yeah, it was
instead of just not equipping the War Axe.
Yeah, it was awkward. It was really awkward.
You do want the Corsair down.
Yeah, I guess you had to do it.
Yeah, because if you played N'Zoth's first mate, you're playing a 1/1, and that's it.
Yeah,
like that. I mean, you can play the Bloodsail,
and that would only been a 3/3, and it would have been awkward.
Also, you get even more wrecked by swipe because you don't have the War Axe equipped. Obviously, this board dies to swipe as well, but at least you have War Axe equipped. Next turn, you can upgrade, go into a huge Bloodsail Raider.
Yeah, just an awkward-looking turn. And here we go. This is the turn where things get messy, but the next 2 turns are kind of unmessy.
Yeah, this is why the matchup isn't that bad. You think Jade Druid slow deck beats out control. It must die to Pirate Warrior. A lot of the time, yeah, sure it does.
It's been known.
But you do have very, very, a decent amount of turns where you can actually just build up. You can take a turn or a rough turn or 2 to ramp, and then your turns become so powerful with the likes of Behemoth, with the likes of Primordial Drake. A lot of the time, the Warrior just can't get through those.
I mean, even here, if you didn't have the Behemoth, you just drew an Earthen Scales. That's the 3 armor you might need to get into your Drake, and like you say, the Drake's just hard to get through. This particular draw, because the Berserker you were talking about hasn't shown his face, this is looking at the moment like it's just going to be Behemoth, Drake, gain 8 armor.
Done.
What are you doing about this? Yeah.
Especially because then almost every single draw after turn 8 is fine for the Druid. There's very few, like, the other Innovate is a bit of a whiff.
Right.
Other than that, though, you've still got Nourishes, you've still got Gadget Zans, you've still got more Jade Generation, you've still got Feral Rage, Scales, all your draws are actually very, very good versus Pirate Warrior late game.
Yeah, most decks don't want to draw their 1-drop on turn 9, and nor does Jade Druid, but if it does, it's a 4/4.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's not a 1/1 anymore.
It really isn't too terrible. Or draw it on turn 7 when you've got a 6-drop to combo it with.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's things to discuss here, like, are we in deep, deep trouble? The answer's probably no, and you play the Jade Isle and the Behemoth, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the Behemoth soaks 6, so Feral Rage, like, if that Jade on board was a 3/3, there's a question whether you Feral Rage, kill the 3/3, trade the 3/3 into the Raider, the 6/3. But because you can't, this is just a turn every single day of the week. And then look, you're actually pretty much just out-controlling the board versus the Pirate Warrior, and you've got a Drake follow-up.
Yeah, from the Pirate side, this is nowhere near over. They're looking at that 17 health and the fact that, although maybe they haven't got a Primordial Drake, how do we force through quite a bit of damage now?
Well, bear in mind as well, they've just drawn Upgrade. That's a 3 durability Arcanite Reaper, effectively. And with the patches, they can trade into this taunt very easily. Push an additional 6, push an additional 9. You don't really trade with the Jades here.
Yeah, you don't ever trade, and this isn't a stabilization. This is good. This is definitely good for the Druid, but it's not quite over.
Ah, yes, it's not quite over. Drake into Feral Rage might be too much to handle here because you can trade the 2/2 into the Corsair. Drake, the 3/1 that's left, goes into the Raider to finish it off. Then you end up with a 4/2 and a 4/8 taunt, followed by another 2 damage board AoE and another 4/8 taunt. That's actually incredible here.
You said a lot of numbers there, and they all sounded big. That's as far as I got with that one.
Yep.
The only thing you have to think about is you are on low health. You're a little tiny bit worried about Mortal Strike. As you can see there, Life Coach terrified of the situation, in fact.
Yeah, he is having a rough time with his Pirate Warrior, as you can see. Although that is a joke, of course. He is looking extremely happy. Life Coach on his travels, playing from a hotel room. But yeah, he's having a good time on comms with the rest of Team Germany.
I know everybody likes winning, but I think Life Coach likes winning more than most people in terms of how much he actually finds it funny.
I think especially when the matchup isn't a straightforward one. You know, you could easily just die in this matchup, like, because that's just the nature of the power of Pirate Warrior. But when you're winning against a deck like this, you're like, okay. Oh, we can even do them both.
He can, and
there's no need to, though, right?
Just trying to work out if you want to replace your 4-1 with a 4-8 and effectively give up on your other Drake. 4-1's kind of annoying, though, because, as has been said many times in casts, pirates do their damages in lumps. So even a 4-1 taunt, actually, it lacks like a 4-5 taunt.
It's a pain, yeah, 100%. It's very similar to the way the bile fins are used in Quest Warrior against pirates. It's like, oh, it creates a 1-1 taunt outside of a hook, whereas if they've got a hook equipped, you're probably just happy. And patches and the Zos first mate, that is it, pretty much in the whole deck that just deals the 1 damage. I love this play because, as you said, 4-1, pretty safe. 4-8, even safer. You don't even need the Innovate because there's no chance of double Mortal Strike this turn.
Yeah, you keep the Innovate in case you draw Auction near.
Exactly.
Is there no chance of double Mortal Strike? That Nazot's first mate's been in hand a long time.
Double Mortal Strike on 7 mana?
Oh.
There's probably a small chance.
In Warrior.
Ah, okay. There's probably a very limited chance that there's double Mortal Strike this turn. But this is what makes the turn so good, right?
Right.
You save Innovate, you cannot die this turn. And then you Feral Rage, and then you're just not dead, right?
Yeah.
The Warrior has to do so much work, even with a 5-3 weapon we saw a couple of turns ago, now 5-1. It's just not going to get through 2 Drakes.
Right, the way you lose this, I mean, you don't lose this, but the way you would lose if you did would be to Cultist into Leroy, into Mortal Strike, or double Mortal Strike, and that Innovate just guarantees if you do somehow have to play 3 more turns of Hearthstone here, that Gadget Sand's another thing to help you.
Also, as well, just Nourish, draw. Into another Feral Rage, double Feral Rage with the Innovate after a Nourish. You know, like stuff like that can just do silly things.
And don't forget there's double Earthen Scale still hiding in this deck as well. There's just almost every card isn't out, apart from probably the other Jade Idol.
The only thing is, this is opening up if a potential, like, double trade away the board. Oh,
Never mind.
Never mind, yeah, swipe. Easy.
So the discussion here now is all about, do we take 1 extra damage, or do we kill them?
Yeah, you kill them, I think, because that is a lot of damage with Swipe into Feral Rage. Even the hero power in case you needed the extra damage. Not that you do, it's exactly lethal. Life Coach giggling to himself manically as they take a very good win against Pirate Warrior there. Germany going 1-0 versus Croatia. These teams are battling to effectively survive in their group, and this first win is the start to maybe Germany on their comeback tour here.
Yeah, 1-0 lead, and both teams have lost to Ukraine, which means if Ukraine just go 5-0 in the group, then it is good that you've lost to. It's not good you lost them, but it's good if you've all lost to them. It becomes a mini group of 5, and so you're actually 0-1 in that mini group if you like. But so the losers aren't totally out of it just because Ukraine are killing everybody. But against that, if you go 2 and 3, you are really struggling.
Yeah, it's effectively if the losses are spread around all the teams, then the group's much closer pushed together, right, in terms of scores and where they can go through. If all the losses are to one team, it means those other 2 spots are much more up for grabs. Next matchup we've got coming up, though, is Lavek versus Camlin. Lavek on the Paladin versus Camlin on the Rogue. And this is another potentially tricky matchup because Rogue, more than most, I would say maybe Hunter as well, has been playing a lot of Hungry Crab.
Right.
Because if they're playing Quest Rogue, you can just bounce Hungry Crab and win. And just not let Paladin grab the board. And the whole idea of most of these Paladin decks is that they want to grab the board early with the Murlocs and then snowball from that board control. Doesn't happen when you have a 1-mana minion that can just insta-kill any Murloc.
Turns out the answer to grabbing the board is crabbing the board.
Wow, we shouldn't talk about the crabs too much with this, with Neil on the desk as well, with Neil the Murloc, because he might get a little bit upset. Lavik, though, has a lot of minor and open tournament experience. HGG is the first breakout, but as you mentioned earlier, I do feel it's important to have even online cups.
Yep.
32 man. It doesn't matter how big the cups are, what the prize pool is or anything. Just experience playing in tournament format, because I've spoke to a lot of players, amateur, professional as well, that have things like some stress issues when they play in a big tournament. Yep. And if you've never played a tournament at all, that's probably increased quite dramatically.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strong players who say, well, I've come top 20 on ladder a few times, and they go to tournaments, and sometimes it takes them a while to perform first time out, or second time out, or fourth time out. And they're like, what's wrong? And what's wrong is they've not quite got a little bit of tournament. It's a slightly different way of thinking. The way you tech decks is slightly different. If you've played a little tournament, you know that Harrison can go in this because I'm banning this or whatever.
And even just sitting down to play a best of against someone, that doesn't happen too often, because on ladder it's all best of ones effectively. You see the players there just getting ready. See Team Croatia, pretty much, I think they were all together, so at least 3 on the camera, but often we see people just off camera, the team, but most of them at least are playing from the same room. So a lot of a close-knit bunch of players, I would say, getting ready to try and take down Germany and battle back from this 0-1 lead that Live Coach and Team Germany have managed to grab hold of.
And we've seen this from a lot of the smaller countries, actually, where we've seen some of the more established players are comfortable playing via communication. A lot of the smaller countries, we have seen them all get together, traveling their whole country to get into the same building. And it's good to see that. I mean, not only are they taking it seriously, but they're the ones who are trying to go to the next level. It's the camaraderie and everything as well. Oh my goodness, this is going to be try to beat you down versus try to beat the quest.
Yeah, and Grimscale Chum, a card that definitely, dips in and out of these lists, I would say. The Murloc Paladin is almost a million different ways to build it with exactly which Murlocs you include. You saw the Tidecaller you and Falco were casting last series as well, so almost anything can jump in here. But the Chum is one of the more reliable ones at getting the more aggressive openings, which is exactly what you want to do versus Rogue.
I also don't mind this when your team is honestly the underdogs. Croatia are definitely not as good as Germany. That is just fact, because Germany are amazing.
Yeah, based on past performance,
bringing
you can't
a deck
argue
that might be a little tiny bit more based on your opening hand. Say, hey, if I draw the Chum, we might beat anybody.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, it's similar to
level the playing field a bit.
Sometimes it's almost impossible to lose with Pirate Warrior, right? Because you just get the hyper. It's what aggro decks. If you get the perfect hyper aggressive opening, you almost always just win unless your opponent draws extremely well as well. Interesting to note as well. We talk about Croatia and the 0-2. They are 0-2 to Czech Republic and Ukraine.
Right.
2 monster teams in HGG. So it's not like they're losing to everyone or anyone here. They're losing to 2 of the best and strongest performing teams in HGG so far.
This group is absurd. You've got the Czech Republic and Ukraine that they've lost to. Then they've played Germany? That's not fair. It's just not fair.
Yeah, my first 3 matches are against Ukraine, Czech Republic, and Germany.
And then there's the Philippines in the group as well, who in any other group would be really talking about, look, the Philippines should qualify. In this group, we're talking, well, Philippines might get out of this group.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Germany for a start. One of the Germany lost to Ukraine and Philippines, so they ain't messing about either.
If you put them in another group, you'd be like, oh, Philippines are fairly easy from here, because they're a really powerful team. So, yeah, Croatia definitely drew the short straw in this event, and let's see how they cope with it.
Yeah, and Croatia, dissecting this hand here from the Paladin is 2 Chums and a War Leader. That can lead to some pretty hefty openings, as the Valfen is just straightforward, drop it on 1, 3 health, very awkward to deal with. But now you can start to open some very, very high pressure scenarios here.
And the way they did it, they've chosen to make sure, unless they draw another Murloc, that the Chum makes, one of the Chums will buff the War Leader. Yeah. By just getting that other Murloc out of their hand. So the War Leader is going to be very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Because Quest Rogue just doesn't play, most of them don't play Backstab, some do. Almost none of them play Eviscerate.
Yeah. Well, interesting. We did just see Backstab to deal with the Valfin out from Camlin. And as you said, Backstab is a card that's been, slowly just teetering out of the Quest Rogue. I think it was one of the last spells to actually be removed. There's still a lot of debate on what minions you play, but the spells themselves are just getting cut down to like Prep, Shadow Step, Mimic Pod, and the Quest. That's like all you want to play. Everything else is vital to get that consistent Quest popping off.
And again, it is reminiscent of how Patron Warrior formed as a deck, where people went very slow with it with Grom and stuff like that to start with. Then it got all in on, we are going to make Patrons. And then it slowly sort of got a little bit more control-y again, but nowhere near as much as it started. Yeah. And we're seeing this with the Rogue deck. It's gone to the all-in phase. Now people are going, oh, Tolvia Ward, and actually, it's kind of good.
Tolve Warden's one of the one cards we might not see in this list because it's the Tolve list that's been played a lot doesn't run backstabs, but that card it solves some of the problems you have against aggressive decks. Imagine this, right? If you have Tolve Warden, you've gone Elemental the previous turn, Tolve, suddenly the Paladin's in a bit of more of a stutter a little bit because the Divine Shield's such a problem.
4/5 Cold Light Seer because both of the chums weren't the chums for the War Leader at all.
There goes the Volcano. We played the beat. Mimic Pod, Biofin Tide Hunter. It's going to be okay. Just soaking up attacks because Paladin doesn't really deal 1 damage. We can see a Consecrate is available, but the timing of this Consecrate is going to be key. And what's also key is, let's just point out, there is like no quest idea yet from
they
from
just haven't.
Camlin.
I mean, obviously the Mimic Pod kind of decides that a little bit, but this Bless Your King is just going to start hitting you in the face for 8.
Yeah. You just played a 3-mana Yeti onto the board that gets potentially buffed by other cards in the deck.
Right, and it's also mana efficient. I mean, there is the option to play the War Leader and then do other stuff, but just, okay.
Is there the consideration? You've already got a Yeti on the board, which you shouldn't have to a certain extent. Vanish is a card that would kind of mess you up.
Yeah.
Right? So Vanish is a consideration, especially because it's turn 5. Maybe not even this turn, but if you're going to put that much into 1 minion and then Vanish happens, you're like, oh. That was a waste, especially with Germany going so slow. Oops. Okay, well, I was saying Quest Rogue plays Crab a lot. When you Mimic Pod it, you're looking pretty good, especially against a more aggressive Murloc deck.
Yeah, it's not going to be an aggressive Murloc deck for long. These crabs are just going to take
I'm just going to cover Neil's eyes here as we continue watching.
Yeah, not
this
me,
crab.
the Murloc Neil that appeared on the desk.
Lil Neil.
Lil Neil. Ah.
Lil Neil the Murloc. He can't watch this part of the game because this is absolutely brutal. What does his hand look like? 2 Balefins are there, like next to the Hungry Crab that's left in hand, going, please don't eat me. Eat the enemies.
I mean, that is actually a thing, right? That's a very life coach thing to do. I know it's not the only people who play it, but to make sure that your cards have some synergy.
Oh yeah, there's got to be a storyline, some lore behind it.
Yeah, and just to make a bigger thing in the situations where you need some early.
Yeah, exactly. You can actually use the crab to eat a Biofin, especially when you Mimic Pod them as well. But
it's unlikely. It's just a life coach thing to do, to have those tiny little details in the deck. And that's probably why he likes this build.
And I genuinely think as well that the Biofins aren't going to be bounced more than likely because of these Hungry Crabs in you against Paladin.
Right.
So you could just use them to eat them, right, in the bounces if you really wanted to, on the final one maybe, just to get a bit of a higher minion before you play the quest. But yeah, some of these tiny things might not happen in 50 games, right? But the one game might be enough to actually get some work done.
Yep. Talking of getting work done, I'll tell you who's not going to get any work done today. That's Sunkeeper Tarim.
Yeah. I'll either buff your minions, or I'll make all your 5/5s 3/3s, but all the rest of the new cards that are going to be played are 5/5s, and 3/3s aren't that bad anyway.
Yeah.
One of the awkward things as well is, and that Tarim doesn't really play nice with Rogue, is that one of the strengths of Tarim is he makes the board 3/3s, but he has 7 health, right?
Right.
But Rogue has Hero Power, which is a dagger for 1.
Right.
So it's actually very easy to deal with this, and if you just wanted to see a crab hit the board, hit the hand, hit the board, hit the hand, hit the board.
Here it comes.
You're watching the right game. Nom, 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 nom.
Lavek's face last turn was like, look, we know you're going to bounce the crab, but this is the only play we have. They're pretty much done.
The worst part is like, so can we take back the Vilefin Battlecry and just get Silverhand recruits again? Because every time they press Hero Power, they're just making this worse.
Yeah.
And they know it was Mimic Pod as well, if they kept an eye on it, because the minion came out from hand after Mimic Pod, which means the next minion along has to be a Mimic Pod, right? There's no even question about it.
I'm not even sure if Germany need the quest. It's just gonna kill
just
you.
Win the game without playing the quest. That's a hard mode Hearthstone here.
Wow. Not far off it though.
Even bouncing the Biofin. Are they gonna do Shadow Steps on the Biofin? Surely not, right? Because there's Hero Power. If you Shadow Step the Murloc, are they just gonna push? So they can play Biofin, Shadow Step Biofin.
Yeah.
So now that it doesn't really matter.
It makes more 5/5s.
That is true. That is true.
It's just a very life coach thing to do. I mean, and all of Germany and all of good Hearthstone players, but it's particularly a life coach thing to do, to be brutally efficient even when it doesn't matter anymore.
And these are the okay. So the Quest Rogue, very very powerful, but a lot of the time you either get smoked down or you whiff very very hard.
Right.
But games like these are why people are terrified of this deck.
Right.
This is almost unlosable. There you go. Didn't even play the quest. He won the game without the quest.
And I think he would have actually just won it if they'd had no quest. I think they'd have found a way to just win with 3 4s and 2 1s.
Yeah, because the Tarium on a board that wide wouldn't have done anything anyway. So would have actually buffed them. You play around Tarium by not playing the quest. Genius. Absolute genius. Germany off to a very, very... I broke Neil, yes. Germany off to a very, very quick 2-0 lead against Croatia. These games are flying by.
Yeah.
I feel like I've only just sat down, but this is actually really strong play. Although, Mimic Pod into Crab against a more aggressive Murloc-based Paladin. Yes, that's a very, very good Mimic Pod indeed. But we are moving on to the next game. Insane has to have an insane performance himself if he wants to keep Croatia into in this series with the Shaman over the Mage, whereas Viper has forgone his Paladin and gone for the Mage instead. So
might actually slow the pace of the game down a bit in most situations.
Just Secret Mage, go face.
Yeah, Token Paladin.
Maybe.
But yeah, good to see Germany actually just rolling up.
Well, this is no anything ill aimed at Croatia, but
no.
if you just look at the Germany games in terms of they've just went 2-0 so far and they're playing very well, they're having a good time. This is what we kind of expected from Germany from match 1, to be completely honest. So we'll see if they can close it out though, because it's not over till it's over, right? So
it really isn't. We've seen reverse sweeps. Did we see 2 yesterday? We saw one and one near,
yesterday, yeah,
and one very near from 2-0 to 2-2.
Yeah, and then last week it was Greece and Portugal as well. So it's definitely not out of hand at all. We'll see how it goes on. Viper looking cool, calm, collected, as always.
As always, right?
I've met Viper before, and he's like very nice, pleasant guy, but he always just seems completely relaxed. He's just like, hey, how's it going?
And I feel that he's one of the guys who's really got a point to prove here, because he got to HCT, no one had heard of him. He didn't do great, I don't think, at the actual championship event. Mm-hmm. He got to a championship event, guys. That's doing great.
That's pretty good.
Let's just emphasise it. That's doing great. Sort of vanished. And then he got in the German team. People were like, who's Viper? Mm-hmm. He's the guy who got 37 HCT points. Yeah,
it's just a lot of points. And also, I think it is important when we talk about players who have breakout performances, because playing in championships is a breakout performance, but you need to keep it going, right? And this is what he'll be looking for in terms of just, again, standing next to these big names we know from Germany, have known for a long time.
So he got 37 points in 2016. I'm saying that's good. He got 27 in spring this year.
Wow. Not too bad.
This is a guy who has said, you know what? I'm going to show you a thing or two.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Whereas Insane is the only player in Croatia to actually participate in a playoff. So he has got more experience by the sounds of it, and more, high-end tournament experience. One, he made it to playoffs. Two, did play out, the brackets anyway. So he's got experience in these high-pressure situations, and he's going to need it, because if he loses, this is going to be Germany with a 3-0 win over Croatia, and probably going to be knocking Croatia out, especially if it is 3-0. That's detrimental to the game score.
And they've already lost 3-0 and 3-1 in their previous.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, despite the fact, it's fair. They played Ukraine, they played Czech Republic. They are not easy matchups. But if you keep losing 3-0, doesn't matter who you're losing to, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah. And we are going into the game. Germany and Viper on the Mage, and Insane on the Shaman. Already with Jade, Spirit, Volcano, and Thing from below. This looks like it could be the Echo, the Spirit Echoes we've been seeing. Yep. These all look like, there we go. Great timing. Insane. I appreciate when my words are backed up by the players. Spirit Echo being drawn. This is the list with the Jades. Potential Elementals as well, but mainly Hot Springs, Jinyus to get that high value late game play. Stonehills as well.
Yeah, and both of them rocking this new legendary that we've not seen before. Actually, it's been around since the dawn of time, but Dark card we see a lot at the moment, Blood Mage Thanos, especially in Mage decks that aren't Freeze Mage because of Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah, I think the Blood Mage Thanos is just it's just a good card, right? 2 mana, 1/1, +1 spell damage. When it dies, it draws a card. It's a great card. Yep. I think it's very easy to just drop this kind of card into a deck, especially a spell-heavy deck, of course, like Shaman, like Mage, where you can say, I feel like I'm lacking a bit of card draw, and sometimes with the amount of spells you can get with cards like Glyph, it's just extra push, extra burst damage, and giving a very funny look to that spell. And last week, I cast a match with Falcon, I believe, which was a Discover Mage with Counterspell.
Right.
Because I think with Discover Mage, everyone is so set in Ice Barrier, Ice Block. They're the secrets.
Yep.
Unless something's glyphed or Cabal Couriered, then just playing a secret, they presume it's one or the other, and then they just play a spell without thinking. Boom. And imagine Spirit Echoes Counterspell, huge.
Sure. Yeah, I've been talking about this a little bit as well with... I think everybody went to Discover Mage, and a lot of you liked it and thought, this is the best deck. And then people start saying, okay, let's make the best deck better, because that's how evolution works in Hearthstone. Yep. People have been really messing around with Secret Mage, and it hasn't quite worked. And what Omega Zero has done recently in the tournament is sort of merged them. This isn't that build, but I think all of the players are saying, hey, we can find a build with different secrets, because we can get them cheaply out of our deck. Why not mess around with them? And I think we're going to see builds somewhere between Secret Mage and Discover Mage that are actually a whole new thing.
Yeah, I can completely see that, because you look at cards like Cabal Courier, and they're kind of like janky and a bit slow. And sometimes, guess what? You don't discover a card that's any good for the matchup. Glyph's a little bit more flexible, because it's not flexible, if that makes sense, because it's a mage spell. So it's very much more narrowed down as opposed to one priest card, a warlock card, a mage card. So it wouldn't surprise me at all where you see cards like Sorcerer's Apprentice, factually a strong card. It's just a good card, right? So you see cards like those, maybe Thanos slip back into the deck and just create a bit more flexibility as well.
Thanos, for when hitting something for 15 with a spell, isn't quite enough.
Exactly.
Lots of just posturing going to go on here. This is where I feel that Germany will excel in a very, very slow-moving match, but it's a difficult one for them because of all the healing.
Yeah, just thinking about this counterspell. I feel like it's actually really good versus Shaman.
Yeah.
What are you okay throwing away as a Shaman player?
Yeah, it doesn't have many things, and it lets you do what they've done here. And just, here's my apprentice. Go on,
Deal
kill it.
with
I dare you.
But like, you think that the deck's probably got Jade Lightning, Spirit Echoes, Maelstrom, Lightning Storm. Whenever you play a Maelstrom or Lightning Storm, it's because you're trying to clear a board because the board's beating you. And then that stops. That doesn't happen. So then you're behind again. So this counterspell in this specific matchup, I think, is very strong. There you go.
Viper tries not to choke as he was sitting there sort of snickering to himself all the way through that.
Yeah, just gains like so much additional. Oh my god, look at this. Arcane Intellect can still equip the Ice Block as well because of this counterspell.
Yeah,
and now the problem is, so counterspell, now they're like, okay, is this Secret Mage? So now they play Ice Block, and they're like, oh no, what's the entity? Raises the questions, and this is what, just dropping in a few different secrets specifically, start to worry your opponent and say, well, now what do I do?
Right.
Is it another counterspell? Is it Spellbender? So for Jade Lightning, for example, can just hit the Spellbender, and then you're like, well, this apprentice is still alive.
And something we talked about 2 weeks ago is, I don't know how time works anymore. But
I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, if that helps.
So last week, it does help.
Yeah.
Is that the Discover stuff in this deck was like a toolbox to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Well, that means that there wasn't much natural synergy in the deck other than Alexstrasza and Get 'em. Yeah, that was kind of the only synergy.
Pretty much.
So you can afford to mess around with the cards. There wasn't some super synergy where if you take out one card, like take out a random card from Quest Rogue, like you take out Doomsayer, you have to change so many things to fill that hole. In this, you can just put in what you like, and people are starting to do that.
Yeah, so with Discover Mage in general, the idea is you can flex to whatever's going on, but you've got a lot of flex in the deck itself. So if you start to narrow those, so Sorcerer's Apprentice, Counterspell, you can't deal with every single situation that comes up.
Right.
But the situations you do deal with are stronger. Like that's the trade-off, and we're starting to see that come out now. Finally, the Sorcerer's Apprentice bites the dust, but here's Medivh's Valley to actually clear up some of this. Medivh's Valley ping just feels fine. Just put another 2/3. They had to Jade Lightning a 3/2. So put a 2/3 onto the board, clear the board most importantly, and then you can build into Coin, Violence next turn.
And then in a few turns' time, this is going to start getting brutal because the Mage is getting to Alexstrasza levels. Meanwhile, the Jades are accumulating with the Spirit Echo on the other side. So whilst they're busy sort of posturing at the moment, in about 3 turns' time, this game is going to go nuts.
Yep. As always with Jades in a deck, someone wins very quickly, one way or the other.
Right, yeah, when it gets
snowballs hard. Yeah. There's always a few turns where it's like, okay, bang, done. and again, against this deck as well, and I've seen this more often than not. Volcano against Discover Mage is mostly used to proc your own Spirit Echoes. It really is like
for healing especially.
Yeah, exactly. And Jade Generation, it's just more value because what the Mage can do sometimes is just let the board be built up.
Right.
And just not interact with it. Just go face, right? Because then, well, Spirit Echoes all you want, but if your Hot Spring Guardians, if your Jinyus aren't dying, then they're not being bounced back to hand to use the healing again. So we'll see if that happens. Still very early on, and Viper just having a great time. He's more emotive in this one game of Hearthstone than I have ever seen him before.
Elise the Trailblazer. Yeah, and he really is having fun with this. And Life Coach was a minute ago as well. Seems like the German team are... But they seem to be also taking it incredibly seriously whilst having fun with it. I think that seems to be their coping with their situation.
This build... Okay, I'm going to speak to Team Germany and find out what exactly this build looks like. Because... To me, Sorcerer's Apprentice lends itself to a more aggressive list. And then Elise lends itself to a way more control-y list, right? Because a lot of the time, you don't even draw your deck.
Right.
So are you ever going to draw that pack? You know what I mean? Obviously, if you draw it in a few turns when you run out of cards, fantastic. But that's a great scenario. A lot of the time, you don't even burn through your deck as this mage list.
I guess what those two cards do is... So if you take out the Cabal Couriers, if they may still be in there for one. They could well be in there.
But if you do...
But if you do, you lose that thing that we talk about where they fill in those middle turns. So Sorcerer's Apprentice allows you to play your Fireland a turn earlier. And Elise is something to do on turn 5 that also fits in with how Germany like to play with the value and the ongoing, just grinding people
Live Coach likes his value. And I think, don't quote me, but Elise is one of his favorite cards from the expansion. 1, cards are just good, right?
Right.
2, he loves the animation and the pack opening. He loves the slicing through the jungle, and he loves the pack. I've watched him get excited about this.
It is a really, really
times.
good animation. It really is one of the best. This looks like a good polymorph target.
I would have to agree there with you. The only... Yeah, you have to, actually. Because I was going to say, it's always nice to polymorph Spirit Echoes.
Yeah.
But if you're even thinking about Spirit Echoes can come on high next turn and trade. So you have to deal with it, and you don't want the Jade Generation. So polymorph feels good. Maybe even, hang on. Oh, a little bit short. So whether there's like polymorph, volcanic potion, Medusa Valley. Because there's the coin, but it's actually...
I mean, you don't even need the potion, right? You just polymorph the Aya, shoot down the 2/2 with the Valet, trade into the 3/4. If you want to kill the 1/1, you can coin it if you feel like you need to.
That's true, yeah. You could go that way. Always like a clean, clear board, Lorinda.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is also just very good. You leave a 1/1 on the board, and you're not really afraid. Elise already gained amazing value.
Right.
It's put the pack in the deck. It's already traded with a minion, a bit of a tricky minion, Jinyu, as well. Because if that gets Spirit Echoed, suddenly you're like, oh, so if I Alex, there's at least Jinyu available.
And this is the downside of the Spirit Echo. The upside is that it's fantastic and that it's usually very, very easy to get around the downside. The downside being you actually have to have minions that are worth Spirit Echoing on the board. And if you've got Spirit Echo in your hand, that's one card in your hand that isn't a minion.
Yeah. So Spirit Echoing the sheep is not a good play. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I understood. Yeah, I'm joking around. Of course, it takes up a slot in your hand, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of awkward. But we have seen the extremes of Spirit Echo. You know what it reminds me of? It's like Bloodlust, right? Like, in terms of when Bloodlust's in your hand, it's not minions. So then if you don't have a board, Bloodlust is terrible. If you don't have a board, Spirit Echoes is terrible. But when it's good, it wins games.
Yeah, you really want to play 2 Bloodlust, and you almost never do because you sit there with 2 Bloodlust in your hand going, I wish this was a minion.
Exactly.
Okay, so value coming from both sides here. Obviously, Insane has managed to set up a situation where... You were talking about this yesterday. This is just an annoying minion, but Volcanic Potion seems kind of good right now.
Yeah.
But Life Coach, I keep mentioning Life Coach here because this is such a Life Coach sort of series.
And also, Life Coach
mana.
Played a bajillion mage games. Life Coach actually pioneered one of the Reno mages of the last meta, right? You know, he started off with that. So very much his style of deck, this.
And he hates wasting mana. It's, obviously we all hate wasting mana. We all like to play on curve. But even in these situations where everyone else would just go Volcanic Potion, ping, play Mana Worm.
Well, what I was thinking about, you won't be too surprised, is if you just coin Alex Straza, go. You have 2 Firelands. He's got no minions on board. You know, he has minions technically on
Here we
board.
go.
Yeah, I like it. He's got 2 1/1s and a Mana Tide on board. So at worst, Hex is 3 mana.
Yep.
And they're only on 7.
Yep.
What are they going to do with 4 mana that bothers you? And then you can just, you know, Mana Worm, Filans. You've got 2 turns then to draw Fireballs, Frostbolts, Glyphs. You know, that's a lot of pressure.
Really
and
is.
Absolute immense amount of pressure, actually.
It all depends how much healing they can get through. They've already got rid of one Jinyu, which was a worry. They've already... Did they get rid of anything else? That was it.
No,
just
one Jinyu. There's still probably 2 Hot Springs and 1 Jinyu at least.
And possibly, occasionally, a Kalimos with very few activators.
Yeah,
Sometimes
you know,
works
I
its way.
think what I've seen is actually just Fireflies, which we've not even seen.
Yeah.
So maybe not. Fireflies, Hot Springs,
And
Kalimos.
that's it,
That's
yeah.
it. You just always hold the Flame Elemental in hand until you have Kalimos. So there's the Hex. The 4 mana is going to be good enough to get this thing from below because the game's been so slow.
Right.
Yesterday, me and Falco were casting a match where it was turn, I think, 8 or 9, and the thing from below was 3 mana still, which was actually a bit of a problem.
These Jades aren't getting that menacing yet either. Oh, I can see a really good play.
Is it Mana Worm Ping Face?
Yes.
Ah, I thought so.
I would do
We're on the
this.
same wavelength. Yeah.
As
Although
always.
I said about going aggressive, this is just a high value play.
Yeah.
Flame Strike again. Enjoy your Spirit Echoes, guys. You know, like you've got nothing on the board.
Hot Spring Guardian with Spirit Echo in hand and also with the Jade Spirit. That's almost as good a turn as you can get in this situation. It's not a game-busting turn, but it's certainly a turn that Germany will not.
And we're going to see Spirit Echoes here, right?
Yeah.
I think we have to. And the benefit or the what's reasonable here for Team Germany with this instance, because this is kind of annoying, right?
Right.
This is a problem, is that Violence Portal generates a minion as well.
Yes.
If the hand was Fireball, Frostbolt, you'd be like, oh, this is actually kind of awkward if he starts healing. But the Violence Portal means that you can still push whilst putting pressure on board with minions as well.
Yeah, and the pressure on the board, obviously, not really going at phase. It's just aimed at tidying up this stuff so that your burn can continue to
It's just
whack phase.
not falling behind is the key one. And we'll see what's the minion. Doppelgang.
Again, that was happening in the last set with myself and Falcone.
Awkward. Lightning Storm, I mean, clears the board, but you kind of want to trade your minions off.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you even bump in with the Hot Spring first before Lightning Storm, and then you might as well just not bother.
Or do you even Lightning Storm?
Right.
Develop the Chieftain.
4-7.
Because you want the Jade Spirit and the Jade to die, right?
I'm just wondering, just Volcano, it kills everything. There's exactly 15 health on the board.
And then replay the Spirit.
Yeah.
Volcano's really good later, though. Medivh coming out. Volcano can actually deal with a lot of these minions. Gonna go for
Devolve the... Buff your opponent's minions so your thing can die. Why not?
that shifting shade. I mean, Viper is loving this shade. He's like, yeah, thank you. Give me an extra card. That's actually nuts. That shade is very good here.
It really is.
More and more options. It does mean the Jade Spirit can be traded, though.
Oh!
Spirit Echo.
It's not even that great, but it's kind of ironic.
If Medivh sticks, you can play 2 Medivhs in the game.
Viper is having a lot of fun with this game. But now the pressure's just starting to get real. It needs to, because look at the hand. There's so much damage there.
I don't know how to deal with that noise you just made, Lorinda.
Don't deal with it. Just
Okay.
let it take you.
I hoped you'd say that, because that's what I'm going to do. So now, Buzzard, another incredibly powerful minion from Violence Portal.
Violence Portal
can
feels like it's been
echo
slightly nerved in
and then
time.
play a 0-mana 1-1.
Have lethal next turn.
Yep.
Just
And
in case you think we're not watching.
And there's no heal available.
No heal available.
And this was the benefit.
They played an elemental last turn, right?
Yes, they did.
There might be a Calamus.
Nope. And
Right.
that was that.
Mana cost.
Yeah, so again, because, I mean, obviously the draws weren't there anyway, but because Insane and Team Croatia had to deal with the board from Violence, it created just issue after issue, right? Especially with the Mana Worm, so that they were just slower. They're not even close to pressure in lethal for Viper. Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, 25.
Exactly, and that's why I really like the Alexstrasza turn, because they were overloaded, and they have to hex. If they don't hex, you're like, well, do what you want then, because I've got an 8-8, it's so great. All this without Medivh.
Yeah, and obviously Croatia here are going through the motions because they can't see what we can see, but they will.
Oh, you play it out, yeah.
Yeah, without Medivh, without Kabalkoya, without Glyph.
Yeah. Imagine if they had Glyph, the game would have been over 6 turns ago.
Wow. I can't even stare him down and say without Glyph without getting a comeback. But Insane is going to get the bad news that he has lost in any second now, unfortunately. And a lot of it came from counterspell on turn 2. Yep. Or turn 3, defending the Apprentice. Where he's just got a little tiny bit of tempo boost at the start, allowed to keep the totems under control.
And the Apprentice didn't do anything. I think the big turn was the Arcane Intellect and Ice Block from the Apprentice. That was huge, and the counterspell managed to defend it long enough to make that happen. Germany 3-0 versus Croatia. Croatia looking very grim indeed now, 0-3 in their group. But Germany fighting back. This is what we expected to see. And maybe Germany have got what it takes to come back into this group and qualify through into stage 2.
Yeah, they looked, even though they were having fun there, they looked like they were fighting hard at the table to make sure to silence some of those people saying maybe they haven't got what it takes.
Yeah, and they were having a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, but I genuinely think a relaxed approach to the game is often a strong approach. And also, it's not like they were just snap playing anything per turn, right? You know, it was actually just well thought out turns every time. Unfortunately for Croatia now going 0-3 down, the overall score for game score is going to be a little bit low. We can check that out in a minute.
It's a bit worse. They've won one game.
Okay, well, we'll check it out in a minute and see how that looks on groups. But for now, just a small recap on how the game went. And I feel like this already in game 1 was the beginning of the end. Getting the Jade Druid win versus the Pirate Warrior, huge.
Yeah, one of the chances that Croatia had there is to win this roughly 50-50 matchup. Yeah. Don't shout at me too loud if you disagree.
It's 51, Lorenda!
I know. Which way? Anyway, yeah, that's one of Croatia's big chances there. It never really, beyond the first couple of turns, looked like they had anything going apart from their opening hand.
I felt like it wasn't meant to be to a certain extent. Germany played very well, but it's easier to play well when you mimic Pogged Hungry Crabs and against the Murloc Paladin.
And get the match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, against this specific deck. And this build as well, it was the Murloc Heavy Paladin. You know, we saw the Cold Light Seer as well to, you know, buff the Murlocs. We saw that get buffed up as well. And it just didn't matter.
Yeah, and you just see them going through the motions here of just making stuff. And even then they bounced the Biofilm because that was actually more...
It's more value late game,
if the game went another 3 turns, which it kind of didn't.
Quest Rogue won a game without playing the quest. The spell from the quest before anyone tries to be clever and says, oh, they played the quest on turn 1. I know the spell I meant.
Right. I didn't pull you up on that. Because
no, but someone will. Someone will. And then we saw... this just never got going for Croatia, to be honest.
Right.
The counterspell was definitely rough early on with the Apprentice, but even without that, I feel like it just didn't happen, did it? There was no pressure up until the very end, and even you look at, normally Spirit Echoes goes on like a 6-6 and a 7-7 Jade, or, you know, something like a little bit beefier. Yeah, exactly. Whereas none of that could really happen. The Hot Spring alone was not good enough. And Germany drawing into all the burn as and when needed, and with that very aggressive coin, Alexstrasza was enough to just push Croatia out of this series.
Yeah, the aggressive coin, Alexstrasza, the polymorph on the Aya, everything worked out well.
Yeah, and I think we've got Viper ready for an interview, so we can have a chat with him. Viper, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. So congratulations on the win. Very one-sided 3-0. Are you feeling a lot better about global games now that Germany's put a win on the board? Because starting off 0-2 was frankly a huge problem, right?
Yeah, it was actually a hard hit, just starting out 0-2. Then the first series was like, I don't know, really close. Just lost the last game, but unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And second series was a bit devastating, just going 0-3, and we couldn't do anything about it. Just happened, and now our opponents couldn't do much about just losing, I think. So yeah, just feel relieved. It's a really good feeling.
Did you load your lineup with 3-0 in mind, knowing that you needed to pick up some game wins as well as win the match?
Yeah, we always have the timebreaker a bit. Just thinking about it, and yeah, being 3-0 is really, really important. I don't know, maybe it comes down to timebreakers, maybe it doesn't, but yeah.
And the mage deck you were playing in the last game with the counterspell, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Elise, was that tech choices, or do you think that's how that deck should be built in general?
That's to some degree my kind of I think you can kind of say it's personal preference, because I think the deck is a really aggressive deck in the end. Like, you start out with mana worms, you play really overpowered 2-drops in your deck, and all these good mage cards just in one deck. So I prefer playing the apprentices over the Kabak Courier stuff and the tech choices for Oozes and this, because you just want to be proactive. You want to like actually kill your opponent, and sometimes you just get away with the game because your mana worm stays, your Sorcerer's Apprentice stays, and Counterspell just fits better in the game plan of being proactive than Ice Barrier does. So it was my choice, kind of.
Yeah, definitely a cool list. Definitely interested in checking that one out. But yeah, congratulations again. It was a big win for you guys. You deserve it with the 3-0. So look forward to seeing you playing again in the future, and we'll speak to you soon, no doubt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool to hear from Viper saying, well, actually, he thinks that's just how the deck should work. Very interesting, because could have easily been tech, right? If you're expecting certain matchups, Counterspell can just mess people up very hard, like in the Shaman game there.
And the Counterspell does go in the Secret Mage builds, which are just straight up aggro. So, yeah, that makes a lot of logical sense as we see how that impacts the group.
Yeah, very huge, actually. So Ukraine and Czech Republic still rocking the top, of course, with their 3-0 scores. Germany now jumped into 3rd place, which is a qualification spot if this sticks and stays the way it looks now. But then you look at Croatia, and we said right at the beginning of the day, very important match. Croatia 0-3 with a 1-9 game score means that they are almost certainly out at this point, because they just won't be able to catch up in game score to beat a tiebreaker for 3rd place.
Yeah, Germany still have to play Belarus and still have to play Czech Republic, so not going to be that easy for them, but at least they made the first step.
Yeah, definitely an awesome series, and we've got 2 more series for you today as well, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with some more Hearthstone Global Games.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.